So now we are going to move on to our discussion section. If you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A section at the bottom, and I will put them to our distinguished panel, who I think are joining me. Yes, we've got Henry, we've got Kevin.
You've got the audio, but you haven't got the video yet. No, it won't work. Unable to start video.
Well, we can hear you, Henry.
Yes, no, the host has stopped my video.
Oh, well, I mean, I wouldn't take it personally, Henry. That's the important thing.
Oh, no, now he's allowing me to sort.
Apologies, Henry.
Oh, we can see you. We can see you now.
Very good. Thank you, host.
Apologies, Henry. I have no idea what happened there.
So I'm going to work through some of the questions now. Before I do, I was asked to remind people that we did produce some videos about King's Quarter in partnership with the Civic Trust, and many of those are available on the website of the Bristol and Gloucestershire Archaeological Society. So if you're interested, please do have a look at those. So questions, and we have some great questions here. The first one for Kevin, I believe. The small cannon, Kevin, what would that have been used for?
It's essentially a toy. So given that we found it within a schoolroom, you can leave it up to your imagination. It possibly belonged to the children who were in there, or I suppose it's conceivable it could have been a learning tool or belonged to one of the teachers, but it's essentially a toy, a model, which fired a miniature shot.
Interestingly, we found another one at King's Quarter recently as well, so they seem to be quite common in Gloucester. Our next question, Malcolm has asked, were the crypt deposits checked for evidence of gunpowder storage?
This is a reference to the likelihood that in the around the time of the Civil War, that Marys Crypt is thought to have been used as a arms and gunpowder store. The vault that we went into is a tiny little vault that underlies Mary Lone. The vaults that are more likely to have been used for that are the large vaults underneath the church itself, which we didn't really interact with, and one of them is completely blocked off. The vault in which we were working, that even were it used for that, the evidence didn't survive. The floor of it had been sort of reset in relatively recent years. There was concrete and things down there, which is odd given we were told no one's been down there for years, because there was a modern service in there.
Yes, it was odd. I mean, what I would say, Malcolm, is that the only real significant excavation took place in the schoolroom, and so not in any of the crypts themselves, so it wasn't really the right place, I guess. Another question from David Jones here. Given the importance of the King Square site in terms of the Whitefriars buildings, could not the whole site have been investigated rather than just strips? I will field that. Right, so the way the planning system works regarding archaeology is that we can require a developer to address the damage they're going to cause. So we can say to them, your development is going to damage archaeology to this extent in these locations, and you are therefore required to ensure that that archaeology is recorded and any artifacts preserved and a record made and be publicly available. So we can respond to development impacts. What we can't do is go beyond those impacts. So were we to try and excavate wholesale the area of the Whitefriars Carmelite Friary, which I would very much like to do, it would cost an awful lot of money. It would be against the rules of the planning system, and I would be sacked very quickly, quite rightly, I suppose, which is a great shame because, as you say, we've dug these strips. We found evidence for a Roman suburb there. We found evidence for the church and cloister of the Carmelite Friary, but we don't come away with a really confirmed understanding of the layout or chronology of the friary, because the holes we're digging are so localized that it makes interpretation very challenging. That said, we are digging a lot of it up, in all honesty. I mean, the development has required us to dig down to the medieval levels quite a lot. We're not getting to the Roman levels so much, but certainly the medieval levels are going to be investigated a fair bit. So you might be surprised at the amount of information we come away with. So next question from Nigel. Where have we got to with the dates for the west wall of the Roman fortress being taken down? Oh my goodness, what a question to ask. Ooh, I don't know who to ask. Right, so I think we need to have quick answers for this, both Henry and Carolyn. Can we do that?
Yes, well, you very sweetly held up my book at the beginning. I suggest that chapter 8 of that has a certain amount of discussion about it. It has my up-to-date view, to which Carolyn may wish to add.
I think it happened in the 10th century and possibly even before.
And Henry, you think it was a little bit later?
I was putting it just before the creation of the Norman Cathedral in the 1080s, so that Gloucester had its intact Roman wall system through until the beginning of the Norman period.
I made quite a big sigh when I read that question, because this is a really specific debate that's very interesting if you understand the details thereof. But I didn't want Carolyn and Henry to fall out on the internet about it.
No, I think we can handle that. I mean, it bears on Gloucester big time, doesn't it? Because if you think about it, was late Saxon Gloucester a city that was open to the river, as medieval Gloucester was? Or did it have two compartments, a closed compartment that had been the former walled area and a riverside area? And so the evidence is technical and difficult and arguable, but what hangs on it is a pretty important point for how we understand the development of early medieval Gloucester.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, very much so. I agree. Yes. Yes, I'm stepping back from it now, but you're quite right. It is important. It's just, we should do a whole symposium on it, really. Another question here from Malcolm. Any Civil War evidence from King's Quarter? You see, I was really hoping we'd get something, Malcolm, because in principle, according to the historic maps, we should get huge, great Civil War defensive ditches running around the outer part of the Friars' Barn. But we found nothing confirmed of that date, and nothing confirmed to be a Civil War defense at all. This may be a function of the limited nature of our investigations, but we have just dug a 100-meter trench across the site. I was hoping to find something. So it's a bit of a mystery, that one. And it may be that the earthworks in that area were more shallow than they are, for example, in Southgate Street. Do we have any other questions? Oh, someone's asked if the presentations will be available to see later. Yeah, what we're hoping is that all the presentations will be available online on, I believe, the Cotswold Archaeology YouTube channel within 2 weeks of this symposium having taken place, so within the next 2 weeks. Those are all the questions we have. Do any of the panelists have any questions or observations to make?
I've got a question related to my site, Andrew, because Andrew has been working closely with us at St Marys Crypt, and I just wondered if you know whether there's a programme for we were working towards, which is another thing that happened with the project, the idea that maybe the stones that we found could be displayed in St Marys Crypt. Do you know if that's in train?
So at the moment, the stones have been deposited, they've been conserved and deposited with the Museum of Gloucester. They're in storage at the moment, and the aspiration is still to display them at Discovered Crypt. That will need to be tied in to a National Lottery Heritage Fund application that the Crypt are working on at the moment. So it is a little bit open-ended at the moment, I confess, Kevin, but we are absolutely working towards that outcome, because you know what we want, especially with beautiful pieces like that, we don't want them in cellars not being publicly seen. We want them accessible for all the people of Gloucester to be able to see and understand. And that we're also hoping to see a publication about the stones come out fairly soon in Transactions, and as you know, we're working on that with Martin Hennig at the moment. Yeah, it's a work in progress. That's a bit of a non-answer, Kevin, for which I apologise. So many things going on at the moment. What's happening to the finds generally from Malcolm? Well, all the finds on any of these excavations are subject to post-excavation analysis, cleaning, quantification and assessment, and they will ultimately be deposited with the Museum of Gloucester. Next question, is it possible to buy Henry Hurst's excavation report at Gloucester Museum Bookshop? It is. Thank you, whoever asked that question.
Yes,
that's the world's best plug. It is. It's very reasonably priced. Yes, hold on. I'll just to show, because I can't favour either of the previous city archaeologists, I'll wave both their books like that one more time. That was a wonderful shameless plug. I should also say that if you are interested in the history and archaeology of Gloucestershire, do consider joining the Bristol and Gloucestershire Archaeological Society. It's very reasonably priced, and you get all sorts of brilliant information and a great journal every year. So do consider it, and how to join is available. The information on how to join is available on their website. Do we have any other questions, or are we done? Yeah, I think we're going to call it then. Thank you everyone very much for attending. Thank you to our speakers, especially. Thank you to Cotswold Archaeology for hosting, and thank you for everyone out there for coming to watch. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
Mm.